In the Supreme Court's 231-year history, presidents have submitted 163 nominations to the Senate. 126 have been confirmed and 37 have been rejected, postponed, withdrawn, or never acted upon. In the wake of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, the stage is set for a contentious nomination process, the latest of many in American history.
I today announced my intention to nominate United States Court of Appeals Judge Robert H. Bork to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court.
In 1987, Ronald Reagan's nomination of Robert Bork was shrouded in controversy from the beginning.
Robert Bork wants to be a Supreme Court justice, but the record shows that he has a strange idea of what justice is.
Many Americans first came to know Bork for his role in the Watergate scandal when he was appointed acting attorney general during the Nixon administration during the so-called Saturday Night Massacre. But it was Bork's early writings where he described a principle underlying the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 as unsurpassed ugliness that came back to haunt him.
In Robert Bork's America, there is no room at the inn for blacks, and no place in the Constitution for women. And in our America, there should be no seat on the Supreme Court for Robert Bork.
Bork's nomination was rejected, with the Senate voting 58-42 against his confirmation. Reagan went on to successfully nominate Anthony Kennedy to that seat, whose eventual retirement led to Brett Kavanaugh's nomination in 2018.
I am very pleased to announce that I will nominate Judge Clarence Thomas to serve as Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court.
In 1991, during Clarence Thomas's initial hearings before the Senate Judiciary Committee, a former employee of Thomas, Anita Hill, alleged he sexually harassed her. Hill testified publicly before the Senate Judiciary Committee.
He asked me to go out socially with him. I declined the invitation. He would call me into his office for reports on education issues and projects. He would turn the conversation to a discussion of sexual matters.
And the all-male Senate Judiciary Committee questioned Hill.
It is appropriate to ask Professor Hill anything any member wishes to ask her to plumb the depths of her credibility.
Are you a scorned woman? Do you have a martyr complex?
No, I don't.
4 days after Hill's testimony, the Senate confirmed Clarence Thomas by a 52-48 vote, the narrowest confirmation in the 20th century.
Today I am nominating Chief Judge Merrick Brian Garland to join the Supreme Court.
In 2016, following the death of Justice Antonin Scalia, President Barack Obama nominated Merrick Garland to fill the vacancy. But many Senate Republicans, including Mitch McConnell, insisted it was too close to an election to choose a replacement.
Will Justice Garland, Judge Garland, get a hearing?
No, I don't think so.
Ultimately, no Senate confirmation hearings were ever held for Merrick Garland, and President Trump went on to appoint Justice Neil Gorsuch to fill that seat.
Tonight, it is my honor and privilege to announce that I will nominate Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court.
On September 4th of 2018, Brett Kavanaugh sat down before the Senate Judiciary Committee for the first days of his confirmation hearing. And then this emerged.
Christine Blasey Ford, a 51-year-old research psychologist, described Kavanaugh in the Post report as stumbling drunk at a Maryland house party in the 1980s, when she claims he pinned her to a bed and groped her.
Blasey Ford sat down before the Senate Judiciary Committee.
I am here today not because I want to be. I am terrified. I am here because I believe it is my civic duty to tell you what happened to me. I believed he was going to rape me. I tried to yell for help. When I did, Brett put his hand over my mouth to stop me from yelling.
Kavanaugh offered his response.
This confirmation process has become a national disgrace. This is a circus.
The FBI investigated the allegations and presented its findings to the Senate Judiciary Committee on October 4th. 2 days later, Kavanaugh was confirmed to the Supreme Court on a 50-48 vote amid a flurry of protests. The question now, when will Ruth Bader Ginsburg's successor be confirmed, and who will be in office to do so? The future is still unclear, but one thing is almost certain. The nomination of the next Supreme Court justice will be embroiled in controversy. Justice Ginsburg's death is already having an impact on voter turnout. One day after Ginsburg's death, lines were out the door at some polling places in Virginia where early voting began last week. Many voters there telling us the death of Justice Ginsburg motivated them to come out and vote early. Will Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death have an impact in swing states when the election results are in? MSNBC host Ali Velshi spoke to voters from both parties in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
It's sad, and it leaves a hole that needs to be filled. She was wonderful for women. You know, she stood up for women to equal pay. You know, I don't know a whole lot about what she did. I know it was extensive.
Well, that was one of the biggest deals, the Lilly Ledbetter law.
Thank you.
She was so she would be very pleased that that's the thing you know about.
Yes, we all want to thank her for that. But her seat does need to get filled right away. There were things that I don't agree with that she did stand up for, of course, but you know, she's going to be missed. She was a wonderful pillar.
I just hope that now that her life is being celebrated on TV and people are getting to know more things about her, I hope that a lot of people take the fact how she was just as close with her conservative peers as she was her liberals, and how they work together. And I really hope that that inspires other leaders to do the same.
Angela, you are a lawyer.
I am.
So it's such an interesting day to talk to women, to talk to people who've been involved in civil rights, because they sort of see what they want in Ruth Bader Ginsburg as a champion of causes not typical of someone on the bench.
Absolutely. I mean, on the one hand, as a woman, that was a hard hit. She was someone that I respected and someone who paved the way for other women to be involved in the law. And also as an attorney who is civil, who's minded in civil rights, to have someone in such power who unapologetically fights for causes that I would argue, for the little people, that's something that I strive to be half of what she's done with her life. I think the politicizing of the Supreme Court is kind of scary. And I suspect that Justice Bader Ginsburg, that's not what she wanted and what her will was. And I suspect that that's why she tried to hang on until at least we had made it through the election and made it through inauguration.
Ali joins me now from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Ali, what a cross-section. Now, most of us know Kenosha because of the police shooting of Jacob Blake earlier this summer. Now, with the death of Justice Ginsburg, what are the issues that the voters there seem to be most concerned about?
Well, it was interesting. Nobody had a bad word to say about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which is obvious. But the Republicans on the panel wanted that position filled very quickly. The Democrats obviously didn't. With Republicans, they were talking about religious freedom. They were talking about abortion. They were talking about the economy, which polls are indicating people believe that Donald Trump is a strong performer on the economy. With the Democrats on my panel, they were more interested in other things. They were talking about justice and the racial issues in the country. There was a very hearty debate between the participants about whether systemic racism is really a thing or it isn't. The Democrats felt that not only is it a real thing, but it's the kind of thing that Donald Trump is exacerbating. The Republicans didn't see it that way. It was also very clear, Gadi, that they were getting their news from different places because their perspectives, particularly the Republicans on the panel, were really parroting the kinds of things that you hear Donald Trump saying at his rally. So it was a useful enterprise. Nobody in the end of it agreed with each other, but we spent an hour talking to each other, and that was useful, Gadi.
And it seemed very cordial.
It was. It was. And that's part of the deal. We invite these people to come and have a conversation with us every weekend. And we sort of say it's free for anybody to say whatever they want, but let's everybody try and be nice. And they all agree at the end that that in itself is an exercise that Americans should go through and that might help us bridge the divide.
Absolutely. We need so much more of that. Allie, there's, as I understand it, one more month until early voting begins there in Wisconsin. What did the voters there tell you about how they plan to vote? Are they talking in person or possibly by mail?
Well, first I asked them, first of all, who they were all voting for. And while there were 2 independents, 2 Democrats, and 2 Republicans, 3 people were voting for Donald Trump, 3 people were voting for Joe Biden. The Republicans were quite pleased about the idea that they were going to vote in person. In fact, the ones voting for Donald Trump didn't even wear a mask for the conversation, which typically takes place with us, but we had everybody properly social distanced. The Democrats had all said that they were going to be voting absentee or by mail. So, again, that is splitting the way we're largely seeing surveys and polls indicating that Americans are thinking about the election.
As we mentioned, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg will be lying in repose at the Supreme Court of the United States on Wednesday and Thursday. Memorials on both coasts were held over the weekend honoring the late Supreme Court Justice, including her birthplace of New York City. NBC News correspondent Pete Williams, he joins me now. Pete, what more can you tell us about the memorial plans for Justice Ginsburg?
Well, this will be one that is designed with the pandemic in mind. So it's going to be a little different than previous ceremonies like this, the most recent one that we saw in 2016 after the death of Antonin Scalia. It will start out much the same way. On Wednesday, the casket will arrive at the court at 9:30. It will be brought up the marble steps outside the courtroom, outside the courthouse, by honorary pallbearers who are her former clerks, and the pallbearers will be Supreme Court police, which is the tradition. It'll go inside the Great Hall, which is what you would get to right after you go through the big doors under the portico up to the main steps. And there'll be a private ceremony attended by her family, close friends, and justices. And then here's the switch on the usual tradition. And Gadi, let me show you, if you come back to this picture here, I have a picture of the Supreme Court behind me. So this right here is the portico, and you can see the columns here, and there's a space under the behind the columns in front of the court. So there's in essence a sort of porch that is formed by the portico. After the private ceremony on Wednesday, the casket will be brought back out under that portico, and that's where the public can pay tribute. That'll be on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday from 11 to 10 p.m., 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., and then on Thursday from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then, as you noted, the lying in state in Statuary Hall at the Capitol on Friday, and then a private burial service at Arlington National Cemetery next week.
Wow, that'll be quite a sight to see right there in front of the Supreme Court. Pete, the court's fall calendar begins in a few weeks. As we mentioned, President Trump is expected to put forth a nominee as soon as possible. Will this have any impact on the court's hearing and arguments possibly in the next month or so?
Well, it could. It depends on how quickly the president acts. He'll obviously going to act very quickly, and how soon the Senate is going to vote on confirmation, whether it'll be before or after the election. The Supreme Court term starts just this coming Monday. So that means when the term starts, there'll be just 8 justices. That's the immediate effect of Justice Ginsburg's death. If it looks like there could be close votes on any of those cases, the court can order them re-argued, put off until next term or later in this term. Then the week after the election, the court hears a big make-or-break case on the future of Obamacare. This is a challenge brought by a coalition of red states. The lower courts have said that Obamacare must be struck down, and that because one part of it, the lower courts have said, is unconstitutional, the entire thing has to go. Now, that's a big question, whether parts of the law can be saved or whether the whole thing goes if one part of it goes. So that case will be heard just the week after the election. And if the president's nominee is on the court then, that could potentially make a big difference.
A lot to keep track of. Thanks so much, Pete.